Thanks, Karine. I wanted to ask you about this new Bidenomics messaging push. Can you just give me a sense first of, how did you guys coin that phrase, or why did you decide to go with that branding going forward?
You don't like Bidenomics?
No, I'm just asking. I'm curious.
I think it's pretty clever. It's pretty good. It makes good sense, Bidenomics, right? It kind of flows off the tongue really well. But in all seriousness, look, what you're going to hear from the president, I don't want to get ahead of him. I think we've kind of laid out a little bit of what we are thinking, or what we think the president's going to lay out, or what he is going to lay out. Certainly it's a vision, right? It's a vision about growing the economy from the middle out, the bottom up. You hear us say that over and over again because we believe that trickle-down economics does not work. And we have seen that over and over and over again. And what we have seen, even before the pandemic, is we've seen American families being left behind. And so one of the things that the data, if you look at the data and what we've seen from what the president has been able to deliver in the last 2 years, is an economy that's getting back on its feet, an economy that's actually delivering for the American people. 13 million jobs, unemployment rate at under 4%. When you think about wages going up, when you think about inflation at its lowest by more than 50% than it was a year ago, that's because of the work that this president has done, and he's going to continue to focus on what we can do to lower cost for the American people, and so that is incredibly important. Look, it's going to be a cornerstone speech, as you've heard me say. It's going to be an opportunity to talk about the historic progress, right, as we're talking about implementing those historic pieces of legislation. And so all of those things go hand in hand, and we believe that that is the vision of the president, and hence Bidenomics.
Well, one of the reasons I asked is because the latest CNN polling showed that just 34% of Americans approve of the president's handling of the economy. So is there a risk that this new branding could backfire? And are you confident that this new messaging push is going to change Americans' opinions of the president's handling of the economy?
So we believe our job is to continue to speak to the American people, to lay out what it is that the president is doing on behalf of American families. And that is important. And we have the data to prove it. We have the numbers to show that his economic policy has indeed worked. Look, I kind of talked about this moments ago. This has been a challenging time for Americans, right? You had the pandemic. We just had my colleague here talk about the war that Mr. Putin has started in Ukraine, and what that has done to inflation, not just here but around the world. So we know that the American people they're dealing with a lot. But what we believe is that we have done the work. And we have shown that inflation has indeed come down. It is still too high, and so the president's going to talk to that. He's going to speak to where the American people are, and he's going to make sure that we lay out what is it that we have been able to do in a historic fashion to deal with what the American people is currently dealing with. But look, 13 million jobs, again, when you think about how Americans feel better about their personal finances, that is important. When you think about wages are going up, when you think about the really good paying, millions of good paying jobs, that union jobs that his policies are going to create, all the things are really incredibly important. So the president's going to continue to speak to that, and that's what we believe that is our priority to do.
So you're confident that you can change the public's perception of the economy?
We're going to try, right? I think the president, when he has a moment, when he is at the podium, most of the time when he's speaking to the American people, he speaks to the economy. He speaks to lowering costs. He speaks to what matters to the American people. He talks about making sure that we give Americans a little bit more breathing room. He understands what it's like at the end of the month when families are sitting around their kitchen table talking about how they're going to pay costs. That's why insulin at $35 a month is so important, right, for the senior citizens. That's what came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. That's why energy, making sure we're lowering costs for energy is so important. That's what came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's just one piece of that's just one historic piece of legislation that is now into law. So there are so many things that we have done we believe that the American people need to hear directly from us, and that's what you're going to continue to do. Let's not forget the Invest in America tour, right? This is we're about to launch the second part of that tour, where cabinet secretaries, you're going to see the principals are out there talking to the American people. So we believe it is important for us to do that, and that's what you're going to see.